Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Z-Man Shows. Tonight, Adam and I are going to tackle Soul 2020, actually released on December 25th, which is one of those Christmas Day releases. Adam, I never really got into the whole movie-going experience of going on Christmas, but I know a lot of people do it.
Yeah, me neither. I've been fortunate enough to be close enough to family that has people over, but there's probably families that are close that go out for movies on Christmas, and maybe those that aren't, they're just looking to get out of the
Yeah, a
house.
little COVID Christmas gift. That's always fun. But Soul 2020, this movie was very delightful, Adam. And before we get into like a lot of spoilers and stuff like that, I just want to say just overall the experience of the movie, how if we enjoyed it, and I want to tell you if it was driven more towards kids or adults. And I have to be honest, Adam, I was really leaning towards the movie geared towards adults because we were sitting there and we're watching it with my kids, and I think they're really enjoying the experience, and it was funny at times and so forth. But I mean, there was a lot of deep kind of issues they were talking about throughout the movie.
Yeah, the issues were deep. We talk about meaning of life, finding your purpose, getting in the zone, appreciating the little things, interactions with other people. And I think on top of that, there was a lot of subtle humor baked into all throughout the movie. Like it's amazing how often the humor is just some background character making a comment and you just have to catch it. But I could see a kid just being like, "What?"
Yeah.
It's really, I agree, totally geared toward
And
adults
it
more than
was fun
kids.
though when watching though because you're listening to all these voices, and I'm trying to pick up on the voices. I know we talked about this just briefly, but I could not pick out Joe's voice. So this movie surrounds this main character named Joe, and he is currently a music teacher in a high school, I believe. And he does side gigs, like for jazz. And he loves jazz. He loves it more than anything in the entire world. But again, I was trying to pick out his voice, and I was really delighted when I found out it was Jamie Foxx. And I think Jamie gave a great performance, kind of giving a little bit more faster and hyped kind of character performance than he probably usually does when he's on screen for real. But yeah, it was really neat to hear him. And then when I found out Tina Fey was playing the other little, I don't even want to. Yeah,
22.
I don't know if she's an antagonist or protagonist. I don't know what she is, but she's kind of in the way of him getting what he needs. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the premise, Adam, about this movie.
Yeah, so the main idea is, like you said, Joe's a high school band teacher, part time. Ends up getting a full time gig pretty early on. You can tell he's not too happy about it. Finally, listen through the conversations between him and his mother at his mother's shop, and start to figure out this guy really wants to be a musician in his life, and his family's kind of pressuring him into,
Stability.
doing stability, get a job, do your thing. And lo and behold, finally gets his big break, joins a band, really impresses the band he joins. And he's kind of all just like happy about it. And then all of a sudden falls down a manhole, dies. And then he's at this big journey to figure out, be exploring parts of both the before and afterlife and dealing with the various characters he meets in these places.
And when you gave that, there's a perfect synopsis of what's going on, just setting the person up for going in to watch this movie. And so, if you want to stop there, if you don't want to hear spoilers and really what's kind of getting down into the meaning of this movie, definitely you probably want to jump out of this now. But if you don't mind, let's just keep rocking here. And what I was going to say, Adam, this movie really hits on a lot of great concepts throughout it. I mean,
Yes.
like you said, about purpose in life. I mean, you have this guy, and he's kind of, I guess he's just kind of going through the motions. But he has something he really wants. He wants to be famous. He wants to play jazz at such a higher level, because there's a woman who I guess plays saxophone, and her name's Dorothea. Anyways, he gets a chance to basically audition live right in front of her to see if he can join her quartet. And I thought it was a beautiful moment when he starts playing, and at first he's just kind of, because he's like, what do you want to play? And she just starts playing, right?
Yeah.
And because that's jazz is mostly improvising, right? It's just kind of working off each other, and that's the beauty of it. You don't have to have a certain anything. You just go, let that feeling take you over, and eventually it does. As Joe's playing his piano, and he kind of goes into this mindset like he's on stage or whatever like that,
Zone.
and he's just getting after it, and then he finally stops, and he's like, "Oh man, I'm sorry." I kind of got lost there for a second, and they're all just staring at him, and that's beautiful because that's what jazz is all about. And although I don't really love jazz, I thought it was. I still respect the music, and and obviously his passion for it helps fuel this. But yeah, what a way to go! He gets so excited, he's on his damn cell phone, falls down a manhole, and next thing you know, he's this little puffy blue guy heading up the elevator to the great beyond, heaven or whatever else you want to call it. But he's on his way, but he doesn't want to go. And you see all these other little people, and like the little mushroom people, and they're like, "No, we're going to heaven." And he's trying to bolt the other way as fast as he can. And it's just the humor in this movie. And let's talk a little bit about the humor and how it played in touch with the feelings inside too, the empathy as well.
So kind of like I was saying earlier, there's just, I mean, not every scene, but it seems like, it seems like almost every scene in the movie, there's a character saying something funny.
Yeah.
Even the scene where Joe dies is almost comical leading up to it. And I don't want to spoil the joke, but it's actually kind of funny watching it happen.
Yeah.
It may sound
Yeah.
morbid, but watch it.
Yeah.
It is. Like there's a character, Terry, who is counting the number of souls using all these different abacuses that come and go, that come from Earth and go to the great beyond. And as soon as Joe wanders off, he says, "There's one off." But even the antagonist of the movie is almost comical in her relentless pursuit of attempting to figure out who is this soul that's missing. And then all of the counselors in the great before are all named Jerry. They were pre-generating personalities, and then they were having souls come in. They were selecting certain souls to come in to the great before after they die, and they would mentor a soul and help them figure out what their spark is so they could go to Earth and be a person. And then I think that mentor would then go on to the great beyond. I think is how
I finally did catch on to that a little bit. It didn't take me long to figure it out, but I was just trying to make sure I understood the area when I was watching it, because you're trying to take it all in and so forth. But I thought it was very interesting too, as we found out later on, because it was kind of it was implied at first, maybe not fully understood, that it looked like they were picking all these famous people, like Gandhi and Mother Teresa, people that have done great works and great things, and doctors and philosophers, but in the end, it wasn't really that they were passing on their specific skill set. It's more like they were just kind of helping them find their way, these little sparks. And I think Joe was confused by that too, and I was as well, because I was like, oh, he's meant to, because he was posing as that doctor or something like that.
Yeah, some famous psychologist that
right, and then of course she finds out that no, you're not a psychologist, you're a music player and stuff. And what was delightful about this movie is I never really fully knew where it was going to go to one moment to the next. I mean, like, they were in one area, but I didn't expect, spoiler alert, I didn't expect them to go back so soon, and that Joe would enter the body of a freaking cat, and that 22 would enter his body. It was just kind of like, whoa, I didn't see this coming. I really didn't, And I thought it was just kind of fun watching this experience just kind of come to life. I mean, call it random if you will, but it was still fun to watch it go down.
No, I agree. And I think what was kind of cool about it is that in addition to being unpredictable, the moments still managed to either be funny or have meaning or some combination of the two. So this Soul 22 that Joe ends up accidentally mentoring because he's taken the place of the mentor that's supposed to be there. I mean, this is a soul that has no interest in living life. And then all of a sudden, in some desperate attempt to go back to his body, Joe and 22 get sucked back into Earth. And like you said, 22 ends up in Joe's body, and Joe's soul ends up in a cat. And so then there's this really comical thing about, and you're right, like it's just this really off the wall, you never know what's going to happen, and it keeps you guessing, but it's really cool actually to watch 22 extract meaning from spending time as Joe, and then watching Joe observe that meaning and both really kind of relentlessly like, okay, yeah, but we're here for me, but also appreciating what 22 is going through.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, unfortunately, I mean, he was being very selfish. He was me, 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 him. And
Hmm.
you could tell this too. Remember the barber shop? Remember when he was talking with his good
Yeah,
buddy? He goes, and there was 22 in the chair that was actually talking about the meaning of life and this and that and doing this and that. And when they leave, he goes, hey, man, thanks for asking, about, me and this and that. And he's like, well, don't we do that? He goes, yeah, but it's always about, and I think Joe starts to
yeah,
realize that he's very I don't want to call him self-absorbed, but I mean he's just about him and me and
yeah,
whatever, and that's not really a great way to live if you want to appreciate friends and other people. You have to take an interest in what they do too. Anyways, life lessons.
yeah. No, no, I
But
agree.
what you hit on and I love, and I felt it. I felt it so deep that it started becoming emotional throughout the movie. Is watching 22 experience the simplest things in our world that we take for granted every single day,
Right,
and everything from just taking a walk outside, looking at the sun. I mean, these are like I call it existential things that I don't think anybody ever just sits back
yeah,
and just like how lucky we are to be where we are, to experience the
right,
things we do in a universe this big. And not trying to go too deep
right.
on it all, Adam, but I mean, did you feel that emotion? I mean, when they were experiencing those things, what did you feel during it?
About most definitely. Like it was cool to watch 22 actually use the experience. And like you said, it wasn't like 22 didn't figure out the secret of cold fusion or cure cancer or anything
No.
like that. All she did in Joe's body was eat pizza and go for a walk, and see a little helicopter pedal
Yeah.
fell from a tree into her hands, and it was just like, or she talked to people. But it was interesting because as she started to acquire that joy, you could also see that joy being passed on to other people in Joe's life. And interestingly enough, she was not only able to make other people in Joe's life feel better about themselves, but even fight some of Joe's battles for him that he wasn't able to fight on
It's
his
true.
own. It was really
I
interesting.
like that conversation. And now, because she did, you're right. But when Joe finally stepped up, and it's when he's the cat, and he's been in his
Yeah.
mom's sewing shop, and he finally taught. And I liked how they did that. How he was kind of relaying the information to her, and then suddenly it was just Joe talking. Because
Yep.
obviously that would have just taken us totally out of the mood. But and he was finally able to, I'll say, stand up to his mother and speak his mind. And once he did, she respected him for that. And I think there's
Right.
an important lesson we learn there, and it's a give and take with any relationship, whether it be our own family and our parents, brothers and sisters, or even our closest friends. And anyways, and
Yeah.
the reason we're getting so deep, I feel like, on this one is because this one is a deep movie. I mean, there are really
Yes.
these are adult themes going on in this movie, and I don't mean the nasty words. I mean, but
Right.
it's just I don't feel a child is experienced enough to take enough in to understand the beauty of this movie and what it really shows. And I'll tell you, by the end, Stephanie and I were both pretty much on edge of tears I mean,
Yeah.
because Joe finally gets the strength to go back and, after he plays his music and he realizes, I can't take this from 22. And, when he's finally at the very end and he's going up the scale, I thought that was it. I thought, man, and
Yeah.
I was about to lose it because I was just like, oh, that is so sad, to go through so much. And I mean, and even he finally kind of got what he wanted, and now he just has to go to heaven anyways. And I felt a little tiny bit cheated, even though I'm glad it was a happy ending, because I don't think I would have felt right. I almost wonder if it would have been more impactful if he would have went to the great
Just
one.
gone.
And I'll tell you this why. Because we don't get second chances like that. Death is permanent. Now, mind you, this is a kids movie, so let's not scare the freaking kids out of their minds or make them worry about death and so forth. But I think it was a great lesson. I think he had a great arc, and however, they still ended up very well. That he got to re-enter Earth because he did go out pretty lame. I mean, I could see them
Yeah.
giving a pass, but I don't know if they do that up there. But if they do, let's call it miracle or whatever. Let's say he came out of his coma. The fact that he said he wanted to live every day to the fullest because now he's seen so much and he's opened his eyes. So
I'm inclined to agree with you actually. I think it may have been a little more meaningful if he had just gone to the great beyond. I will say that I will say that I took a slightly different approach on whether it was a happy or a sad
Okay.
moment. And the part of the reason is I think I think there's a part of him that realizes, because he goes after, he takes 22's badge, right? Because 22 early in the movie decides she doesn't want to go anyway,
Right.
so she'll give him her badge, and then so he takes her
Which is a
badge
pass, pretty much. That's just a
angrily.
pass, pretty much, to go back to Earth, right?
Right. He takes her badge angrily, so he basically takes her chance to live a life on Earth so he can go back after she basically finds her spark and decides she actually wants to
Yeah.
go. And he goes back and he plays the piano, and like it's in this band, and it's a great moment. But then
Yep.
Dorothea's talking to him about how they're going to do this every night,
Yeah.
and it just kind of sinks in that he's like, I don't even really know if this is what I wanted or not. I think
Yeah.
he was just so caught
Yep.
up in trying to live this larger than life dream that when he actually got it and he realized the sacrifices that were involved, it just wasn't what he wanted. It wasn't what he thought it was going to
Yeah.
be. And so for me, I think when he finally goes back and gives 22 her life back, I think that's almost his way of
It was. It
accepting that,
was.
I lived my
Yep.
life. I made my choices, and I'm okay with that. And it's cool that he got that second chance.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. I don't think he needed
No,
it.
I don't think you need it. And and I say sad. It really wasn't a sad moment. It was a happy sad moment, if that's even possible. Which,
Right.
you know what I
Bittersweet.
mean? Like, it's almost like, you ever watch a movie and you're like,
Mhm.
you're almost so overcome with the beauty and the
Yeah.
happiness of the moment. It's just, you're crying because you just can't believe how well this is turning out. It's very rare. There's very few movies I can actually say that I that those feelings are usually done, and done so well that it brings an audience to shed tears, or even be like, man, that's just beautiful, right?
Right.
But this movie did it well, and although a little twist at the end, and yeah, he did get to go back, but it didn't ruin it. It definitely didn't ruin it. This movie
Right.
is holding an 8.1 on IMDb, guys, and so, if I had to give this a score straight out, I think I would give this at least an 8. Maybe even 8.5. I always do that. I always go within a 0.5. But is a wonderful movie, and Adam, I think you're going to go up on it a little bit. But I say an 8
Probably.
because there's another Pixar movie I enjoy just a little bit more. But anyways, let's get Adam's score on this one.
Yeah, and this is going to surprise a lot of people. I'm going to give it a
Woo!
9.
Yeah,
It's it I to me I was blown
it
away.
was good.
I thought the message was impactful without being arrogant, without being preachy, and
Yes,
I felt like at the end of the movie, I felt like it was an hour and 40 minutes of my life that I would gladly spend over and over
that
again.
is true.
Solid
That
9.
is true, and it's a solid score. And yeah, the movie does a wonderful job of just taking all these elements and throwing them together, and not pushing political agendas or any of that other terrible jazz into this movie. They keep it clean for the kids, for the adults, just to enjoy it together. I think the adults a bit more, just because the concepts. I asked my kids when we were done. I
Yeah.
was like, hey guys, what'd you think?" And Steph's like, "Yeah, what'd you think?" And Mason's like, "Yeah, it was okay." And Jax was like, "Yeah, I kind of liked it." And we were surprised because usually most movies they're a little bit more excited about it. But then Stephanie was kind of probing in about asking about, do you think maybe that it was just maybe the ideas were just a little much for you guys? And Mason was like, "Yeah, I don't know if I understood all of it, but it was still fun." So there you go, right there. So it will be enjoyable
Yeah.
for your kids, but you probably are going to have a ton more respect for it as an adult or young teen or whatever else. Someone who's actually lived a bit, and to be experience the kind of things that Joe had experienced. So pr- pretty
Yeah.
cool. And if in case anybody was wondering if you have stuck in this long, Adam, real quick, my number one Pixar movie, and it's a little preemptive because there's a few I've missed. I have never seen Brave, and I've never seen. There's another one out there, but anyways, mine always usually tends to go to Wally. That's it's just a
Yeah.
fun little robot guy. I love the story. I love the soundtrack. It's just a great innocent movie. And what's yours, Adam? What's your favorite?
I think I'm actually gonna say it's Soul
So,
now. It was actually Finding Nemo for years, but I think Soul is now the reigning champ for
Finding
me.
Dory didn't beat out Nemo, huh?
I haven't actually seen Finding
Ah.
Dory, but I bet it
Finding
probably
Dory, excuse
wouldn't.
me. Well, and it was a good one. Pixar does a great job with their movies in general, and you can almost fair to say when they come out with a new movie, you're gonna be in for a treat probably. And this one, a lot more than I would have expected. In fact, I found myself, I don't know why, I just wasn't excited to really go see it. I just saw it. I was just like, okay, another cartoon movie. I didn't know anything about it though, and maybe that was for the best because I got to go in with fresh eyes and ears, and I got to just fully experience it. And it was like you said, Adam. I mean, it is every bit of a nine. And I don't want to call it a perfect movie because there's probably a few things here and there, but they did a wonderful job with this movie. So definitely go and check it out. Yeah, we'll definitely have to come up with some new flicks to hit here in the future. I know Adam and I were kind of talking the old Mad Max movies, which is kind of random, but it's also they're just kind of fun movies in general, and how they became even more of a S show as they made it to Thunderdome. And I thought it might just kind of be fun to talk them. So Adam just rewatched the first one. I need to rewatch it as well. But then I think we're going to watch Road Warrior and maybe even Thunderdome. And then we'll come back and do a Mad Max talk. I don't know if that'll be next week, but it'll definitely be within a couple weeks. And then we have some other fun stuff. I want to try and talk The Witcher soon. I never really did get a chance to talk to Mandalorian. There's so much to talk about. So we'll see what we can do and get out to you very soon. So with that said, I am Mike and this is Adam with the Z-Man Show. And we will catch you guys at the next review.
See you next time.